They encourage people to engage in extreme actions that generate hatred, which causes the legitimate concerns many have with the oil industry to be silenced. Story 15. Theories are not absolute. They are models. Therefore, no theory can be considered true. Gravity, which is currently the focus of this discussion, already has its own challenges, as it has been demonstrated not to be definitive. I will now refrain from further commentary. Thank you. Story 16. There is not enough space for the storage of road cones, so some are left on the road as storage long after a repair. Story 17. Everything is happening simultaneously. Any event in history, every second of any minute of every hour ever. Sometimes, details of history change for the majority but not for a minority of people, which is known as the Mandela effect. We also have a certain influence over events with our thoughts, depending on how much a person is engaged with those events. Some individuals can influence significant aspects of their lives, such as financial matters and personal relationships. Some people can even initiate significant events, as I learned in 2019. I know that sounds a little extreme, but at the end of 2019, I felt somewhat bored with life and thought, what if a pandemic hit the world now? I was quite obsessed with pandemic-related movies and games like Plague Inc. I had also just watched the entire Maze Runner trilogy, which captivated me. Then, a few months later, a real-life pandemic occurred. I personally experienced frequent unexplained phenomena, like synchronicities. This often happens when I think of something and, at that exact moment, a reference to that thought appears in the video, movie, or TV show I am watching, or I come across something related on social media while scrolling. Story 18. Donald Trump is a serial pedophile and allegedly ordered the killing of Jeffrey Epstein. He has publicly admitted to wanting to declassify several files related to the Martin Luther King Jr. assassination and the John F. Kennedy assassination, which have recently been declassified. However, every time the Epstein files are mentioned, he becomes noticeably more stiff and awkward than usual and quickly attempts to change the subject. It is known that he was on the flight logs numerous times, had known Epstein for decades, and was photographed multiple times with young girls over the years. He has also expressed inappropriate desires regarding his daughter Ivanka. Trump was serving as president during Epstein's death and held significant power and influence compared to others listed in the flight logs. Assuming his death was not a suicide, which seems unlikely, there is only one plausible explanation for who may have killed him. Additionally, I suspect that he exhibits signs of early-onset dementia. While this may seem like a theory, his behavior suggests he is experiencing cognitive decline. Unlike Joe Biden, whom he replaced, Trump has drastically deteriorated in terms of sanity, making it hard not to believe that there is something more troubling at play. Story 19. Many conspiracy theories are promoted to distract from the obvious direct causes or effects of events. Was the September 11th attacks an inside job? It doesn't matter. These theories have been used to justify atrocities and mass surveillance, regardless of their truth. Is there a secret shadow government controlling everything? No, it is wealthy individuals. It has always been wealthy individuals, and they operate quite openly. Story 20. Every time a person goes missing, the murderer often goes to a random forest to dump their bodies, or people who engage in illegal activities hang out in the woods. There are millions of acres of forest. Do you really think the police are going to check every inch of land? Story 21. Elon Musk's Neuralink is the mark of the beast mentioned in the Bible in the book of Revelation. Story 22. I believe that in 2012, the world as some of us knew it ended, and our universe merged with a slightly different one. This is why the Mandela effect exists. Story 23. Conspiracy theories? The Egyptians did not build the Great Pyramids. They were probably constructed between 12,000 BCE and 9,000 BCE, which spans the periods known as Meltwater Pulse 1a and Meltwater Pulse 1b. This timeline adjustment alters the entire history of civilizations in the Eastern Mediterranean. Jesus is not who we think he is. There is indeed a Son of God, and there were prophets performing significant acts during his time. However, his story was crafted from a blend of various narratives, myths, and the deeds of important figures. The Bible takes on a darker tone when we link his teachings to several prophets who coexisted. We are possibly missing around 200 years from history due to our current calendar because an emperor and a pope decided they wanted to extend their reign into the next century, 1000 AD. This clarifies a gap between recorded history and astronomical calendars. The British intentionally lost the American Revolutionary War. The Royal Proclamation of 1763 prohibited British colonies from crossing the Appalachian Mountains. The transformation of the colonies into America voided that treaty with Native Americans and facilitated significant expansion. John F. Kennedy was possibly killed by Lyndon B. Johnson. Shocking. The Central Intelligence Agency assisted in smuggling drugs into the United States to fund weapons for Central American freedom fighters to prevent the spread of communism and safeguard the American way of life. Congress halted the CIA from directly financing the Sandinistas, compelling them to find alternative funding sources. Disregard all the September 11th conspiracies. The most crucial fact concealed from the American people is that United Flight 93 was intentionally shot down. This detail is critical in the September 11th report because its timeline was the only aspect contested by the White House and underwent several revisions before publication. Why? Because Vice President Dick Cheney issued the order to down the plane without presidential authority. Story 24. A lot of answers here are conspiracy theories, but I don't think that's what the question was. I could be wrong, of course. Maybe semi_OK24 could clarify that. Story 25. All these mass shootings and disasters that take a large number of people away are simply acts of population control. Story 26. 1. Gravity Falls is connected with Rick and Morty. Mr. Poe from a series of unfortunate events on Netflix is a villain. Skinwalkers are real or could be based on something more disturbing and may be possible due to evolution. Story 27. We have reached a point where you can communicate through thoughts with the help of artificial intelligence. This opens up some very intriguing conversations that could take place if it is true. Story 28. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed by the FBI. His family also believes that James Earl Ray was not the person who killed him. Story 29. Sullivan Ballou cheated on his wife, which caused significant issues in their relationship for a while. Story 30. The theory that you meet a person twice in your life happened to me, and it was honestly surreal. Story 31. The Big Bounce theory is the idea that the universe goes through infinite cycles of expansion and contraction. After the universe collapses in a big crunch, it triggers a new Big Bang, starting the cycle all over again. It is a concept of cosmic rebirth, where creation and destruction are forever linked. Story 32. The more I read about the Central Intelligence Agency of the 1950s and 1960s, the more I am convinced that nearly every assassination was their doing. Story 33. Black hole cosmology offers a compelling perspective on our expanding universe. It suggests that our universe could exist within a black hole, which appears to be a point of such density that it consumes matter and light. This theory could provide an explanation for the Big Bang, presenting an alternative to the concept of a singularity, which lacks a clear understanding of the nature and reasons behind existence being contained within an infinitely small and dense point until it expanded. Story 34. God is real and he doesn't care. When you look at the universe and what it took for it to exist, there was an abundance of antimatter and matter at the birth of the universe, but it wasn't a 1-to-1 ratio. Otherwise, the universe would not exist. If there had been too much antimatter or matter, the universe would have become nothing but black holes. Conversely, if there hadn't been enough, stars would never have formed. The universe managed to have just